You raise your right hand, please. I, Bernard Sanders, do solemnly swear
I, Bernard Sanders, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of Mayor of the City of Burlington
the office of Mayor of the City of Burlington
to the best of my judgment and ability,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
according to law,
according to law,
so help me God.
so help me God. Thank you all for coming. First, my congratulations to the new members of the Board of Aldermen on the taking of their seats today. My expectation is that this will be an extremely productive and exciting year for this City Council and for the people of Burlington. Welcome aboard. On March meeting day, not only were new members elected to the Board of Aldermen and a mayor re-elected, but the people of the city gave approval, overwhelming approval, to every ballot item that this city government placed before them. This indicates to me that the citizens of Burlington are proud of the direction in which our city is moving, have confidence in the future, and in their local government. Before I discuss some of the issues of local concern that we must address during this coming year, I would like to briefly touch upon the relationship of city government to our federal government and to our state government. As many of you know, it is my very strong belief that no city, not Burlington, Vermont, or any other city in this nation, is an island unto itself. Burlington is part of Vermont, is part of the United States. And what happens in Montpelier and what happens in Washington is of extraordinary importance to the lives of our people. As you also know, I hold the view that local government, which is that form of government closest to the people, should play a major role in attempting to influence the priorities of federal government and state government. More than federal government, more than state government, we deal on a day-to-day basis with the problems and the aspirations of our citizens. We deal with the housing crisis, for example, not in theoretical mega billion-dollar terms, but in phone calls from constituents who have no place to live or are taking money out of their food budget to pay outrageously high rents. We deal with the crisis of affordable health care, not through fundraising dinners sponsored by the American Medical Association, not through cocktail parties with the hospital establishment or the heads of the drug companies, but from meetings with senior citizens and low-income people who cannot afford prescription drugs or their health insurance premiums and who are scared to death about becoming sick, because in America, many people cannot afford to be sick. The impact of federal policy on Burlington and every other city and town in Vermont has been enormous during the last few years, and something that we see on a daily basis. The fact that Congress recently overrode President Reagan's veto of the Clean Water Act means that we may, just may, be able to end the pollution of Burlington's harbor without outrageous increases in our wastewater rates. The fact that Congress rejected President Reagan's attempt to destroy the UDAG program means that there is now an excellent likelihood that Burlington will soon have a beautiful downtown supermarket which will provide a real benefit to the citizens of our city, including many senior citizens, while also helping to maintain the vitality of our downtown. But the struggle against the absurd priorities of the federal government continues. We have lost revenue sharing, which resulted in the need to raise local taxes by almost $1 million. We are today threatened with the loss of community development funds and with continued cutbacks in a wide variety of programs for the elderly, for the young, and for the sick. This city has played throughout New England and in fact throughout this nation an extremely positive role in helping to lead the fight for a system of sane national priorities, and during the next year, we must accelerate that effort. In fact, when the history of this period is written, it is my hope that the city of Burlington, Vermont, will be listed as the city in America which stood out more strongly than any other city in the fight for peace, social justice, and economic democracy. I have placed on your desks, members of the board, an application form for membership in the local elected officials for social responsibility, a national organization of locally elected officials who are working to protect the interests of their communities by demanding major changes in national priorities. I intend to join that organization and hope that every member of the board will also do so. Tomorrow, I will have the honor of welcoming to the city of Burlington the Nicaraguan ambassador to the United States, who will be speaking at the University of Vermont tomorrow evening. I am extremely proud of the record that the people of this city have established in opposing the immoral and illegal war against the innocent people of that impoverished nation. When we speak of reversing national priorities, there is no priority more important than stopping the war against Nicaragua and the murder of their citizens. On the statewide level, you are already aware of some of the major issues that we must address. First and foremost, we must stop the state aid to education plan, which was recently approved by the House of Representatives and supported by the governor. Under this plan, $31 million in new revenue for state aid to education will be distributed, a 35% increase in state aid. And not one penny will be coming to the children of Burlington, or Winooski, or Rutland, or Williston, or Brattleboro, or to 30% of the school children of the state of Vermont. If this plan goes into effect, property taxes for education in Burlington will soar every single year for the indefinite future, and there is no question that the quality of education in our schools will suffer. We invite Governor Kunin and members of the House to visit the rich city of Burlington and to speak to the school children and the teachers who attend the Wheeler School and the Bond School, where over 80% of the children receive free or reduced price lunches because they come from low-income families, 80% of the children. We invite Governor Kunin and members of the House to meet with the hundreds of low and moderate income homeowners who wish not to be driven out of their homes by higher and higher property taxes. According to the state's own statistics, Burlington has the lowest median adjusted gross income in Chittenden County. And we demand justice for the school children and the taxpayers of our city and all the other cities and towns in Vermont being treated unfairly by this absurd formula. The Board of Aldermen and the school board have unanimously gone on record in opposing the grossly unfair formula approved by the House. If we continue to stand together and work with other communities who have been unfairly treated, I am confident that the state Senate will come up with a state aid program which will be fair to all the communities of Vermont, including Burlington. Further, in terms of the funding for street improvements, in terms of the funding for social services, for police and fire protection, Burlington and other large communities in the state continue to be underfunded. Ultimately, it is my belief that we need in the state of Vermont a much stronger commitment toward home rule and a respect for the importance of local government. It was extremely disturbing to many of us 2 years ago that the legislature refused to approve major charter changes approved by the citizens of our city at town meeting day. This year, we sincerely hope and expect that the state legislature will approve the real estate speculation tax approved by Burlington voters in November and the property tax relief program voted upon positively by our citizens in March. What is the meaning of local government? What is the meaning of town meeting if decisions made by elected officials and the voters of the local government can be rejected by a state legislature which often knows little about the problems of a particular municipality. During the last several years, we have, in my opinion, made some very significant progress regarding the functioning of local government. You may recall that in 1981, when I was first inaugurated, I made strong reference to the horrendous condition that our streets and sidewalks were then in. I am happy to say, as you all know, that we have made progress in that area, and we will continue to make progress until every street and every sidewalk in the city of Burlington is in acceptable condition. This year, we will see major construction work done throughout the city in replacing our antiquated sewer system. Finally, after many, many years, we can inform our citizens who have been plagued with the nightmare of sewer backup in their basements that that nightmare will be ending. After years of discussion, the Southern Connector project has begun. The final product, because of strong input from local government, will, in my view, be a more attractive and better designed roadway than was originally planned. Further, our landfill today is functioning in a far better and more environmentally sound manner than ever before. In fact, I think it's fair to say that the Burlington landfill today is one of the best run landfills in the entire state. We are all aware, of course, that our landfill will soon be running out of space, and we are proceeding as rapidly as we can to find an environmentally sound solution for the future solid waste needs of the city. Today, if you walk around Burlington, if you go down North Avenue or Main Street, or any one of dozens of streets in our city, you will undoubtedly see some of the 2,500 new trees that have been planted in virtually every neighborhood in Burlington. The tree planting project, which has been successful because of the hundreds of volunteers who have helped us during the last few years, must and will continue. In fact, this year, Burlington, in cooperation with the business community, will have the most exciting and significant beautification effort that we have ever seen. We will not only be planting several hundred new trees, but we will be planting new flower beds in a wide variety of locations throughout the city, as well as undertaking major cleanup efforts. We have received as a blessing from nature an extraordinarily beautiful city. We must do everything in our power to protect and enhance that beauty. In terms of infrastructure, therefore, I think we have reason to be proud of the progress that we are making on street and sidewalk repair, on our sewers and wastewater plants, on our landfill, and on our beautification efforts. When we think of infrastructure, when we think of the beauty of the city, our thoughts immediately take us to the most extraordinary resource that we possess, Lake Champlain, our waterfront. And I'm very proud of the progress that we are making there as well. During the last 2 years, we have doubled the size of Perkins Pier. We have constructed a beautiful bicycle path, acquired mobile oil beach in the south end of the city, and a mile of new beachfront in the north end. Further, we have finally adopted a comprehensive zoning ordinance for the waterfront, which will protect us against unwanted development. During the next several years, as a result of the bond issue passed by the voters in March, we will see the completion of the bike path, new park space on the waterfront, a new boat launching area, and the construction of a community boathouse, which will enable all of the people of our city, regardless of their income, to fully enjoy the waterfront 12 months a year. Several months ago, on a cold Saturday in February, I was down at the Perkins Pier area of the waterfront and got a glimpse of what a people-oriented waterfront means and what the potential of that waterfront is for the people of our city in years to come. The lake was frozen, I was frozen, and hundreds of people, men, women, and children, especially children, were ice skating, playing hockey, and in general, having a beautiful time. If we do our job right, and I am confident that we will, I predict to you that in years to come, we will find not hundreds, but thousands of our citizens down on that waterfront in every season of the year, whether it is for swimming, boating, and fishing, or ice skating, cross-country skiing, ice fishing, hockey, concerts, festivals, or whatever. Nature has left us with one of the more beautiful natural resources given to any city in America. And we must pledge to our people, to our citizens, that we will protect that precious resource forever. Clearly, during the next year, one of the major waterfront issues that we must tackle is the fate of the Moran plant, which, of course, is no longer an electrical generating facility. It is my strong view that we must utilize that building in a way which is consistent with our goals of creating a people-oriented waterfront. We must develop a plan and a funding mechanism which enables the people of Burlington to utilize that building for the public good. The Moran plant building has tremendous potential as a source of public activity, and we must not let that opportunity escape us. Everyone understands that much of Burlington's downtown waterfront is privately owned, and many people understand that the city is now in court arguing the public trust doctrine, a legal battle which raises the issue as to how privately owned property on filled land can be utilized. As always, this city is prepared to sit down and negotiate with the railroad or anyone else regarding the development of privately owned land on the waterfront. As always, however, the city intends to protect the interest of its people and make certain that the waterfront is developed for the public good. Ultimately, there is no more important issue for local government than the funding of municipal services. Very few people disagree that this city requires a strong and effective police department, fire department, excellent park facilities and recreational programming, effective snow plowing and street maintenance, a quality library, and all the other services that we provide for our citizens. The question is, how do we fund city services in Burlington so that we can maintain and improve the quality of life that our people require without placing an undue burden on those of our citizens who are not wealthy and who cannot afford higher and higher property taxes? This administration remains adamantly opposed to our continued dependency upon the unfair and regressive property tax to fund education and municipal services. That our school system today is presently funded by over 95% of its funding from the property tax is frankly a pathetic situation and gives us some understanding about the absurd state aid to education formula that we are forced to live with. Clearly, there must be a radical change in the relationship between state government and local government in terms of the funding of education and municipal services. Local government and school districts must receive adequate state aid for education and local services, as well as the freedom to develop local options as alternatives to the property tax. During the last several years, Burlington has led the state in developing progressive alternatives to the property tax. We must and will continue that effort. Taxation, in my view, must be based upon the ability to pay. Those institutions and individuals who have the capacity and the wealth must contribute their fair share to maintain the quality of services our city requires. Those citizens, working people, elderly people, poor people, many of whom have seen a deterioration in their standard of living over the past several years, must be given a break. Further, as we look at new development in our city, we must assess the impact of that development not only from an aesthetic and environmental point of view, but also from a financial point of view. Lastly, it goes without saying that it remains absurd for the state government to grant tax exemption for its own buildings, buildings owned by the state, for the medical center hospital, for the university, and for a wide variety of privately owned property. If the state government wants to grant tax exemptions, so be it. But then let the state government compensate the city for the services it supplies to those institutions. In terms of housing, it is my intention to bring before you, members of the board, within the very near future, and to fight hard for the excellent recommendations developed by the Affordable Housing Task Force. Furthermore, we must continue our support for the Burlington Community Land Trust and the Housing Improvement Program. I am very proud that during the last several years, at a time when the federal government has almost completely turned its back on housing, that this city, through its CEDO office and through the Burlington Housing Authority, has won major federal grants to build and upgrade affordable housing. We are today clearly leading the state in the fight for decent housing and for tenants' rights, but much more needs to be done, and we must accelerate our efforts. We are grateful and thankful that as a part of the general economic boom affecting all of New England, that today Burlington has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the nation, and that we have created thousands of new jobs in the last few years. While it is clear that we must continue to move forward in the area of traditional economic development, it is also clear to me that we must accelerate our efforts in new economic development initiatives such as worker-owned industry and increased local control of our economy. I believe that during the last several years we have made significant progress in fighting for the rights of women in our city. This year we must continue that progress by making certain that our female city employees receive fair compensation for their work and that women have increased opportunity for city jobs that traditionally have not been held by women. The Mayor's Arts Council has, in my view, been extremely successful in making certain that cultural activities in Burlington can be enjoyed by all of our citizens, regardless of income. On April 23rd, we will be holding an open meeting in City Hall auditorium to assess what we have accomplished and where we as a city should be going in the future in terms of the arts and cultural programming. I hope that as many people as possible who are concerned about the arts will attend that important meeting. During the last several years, our youth office has been extremely successful in bringing forth a wide variety of new and successful programs for the young people of the city. We have started successful after-school programs, a community youth newspaper, a daycare center, a teen center, and this week we will be launching a new television program produced by the young people of the city of Burlington, which will appear on cable access TV. Communities throughout America talk about the needs of involving young people in community activities and are providing challenging activities for them and with them. And I'm proud to say that Burlington hasn't just talked, but in fact we are becoming a model for communities throughout Vermont and New England in how a city government should relate to its young people. Let me conclude my remarks this evening by saying this. We live in a world in which at present at least 6 major wars are being fought. And while hundreds of millions of people face starvation, the nations of this earth are spending close to $1 trillion on weapons of destruction. $1 trillion. Including money for nuclear weaponry, which, if used, will end all life forever on this tiny planet. I do not know how to reverse this madness, but together, as a progressive and sane community, I hope that we will have the courage to try. We live in a nation in which some people have billions of dollars in personal wealth, while millions of people have nothing at all. We live in a nation where some people can make economic decisions in a corporate boardroom which result in the loss of thousands of jobs in a community and the entire economic destruction of communities. And we live in a nation 200 years after the founding of this republic in which the average working person remains powerless, and the vast majority of working people and poor people have so little faith in our political system that they don't even bother to vote. How do we develop an economic system in which technological innovation is used for humanity and not against humanity? How do we develop an economic system which guarantees the basic necessities of life to which all human beings are entitled? Frankly, I don't know the answer, and I don't think that there are any simple answers. But I hope that this city government will play a leadership role among all cities in this country in exploring all of the options. Burlington, Vermont is a small city in a small state. And while it is true that our economic and financial resources are very limited, it is also true that our courage, our imagination, and our vision for the future can be as unlimited and as bold as we wish it to be. Thank you very much.